Welcome to this online educational resource for the ASHP ACPE Accredited Pharmacy Technician Education and Training Programs. This module will focus on developing an advisory committee for your program. The advisory committee is a very important element in running a successful program and is also one of the highest areas of partial and noncompliance when reviewed against the standards when reviewed for accreditation and reaccreditation by members of the ASHP and ACPE survey team. Let's start off by defining an advisory committee and discussing the composition and structure of the committee. Then, we'll explore strategies for structuring meetings of the advisory committee. Lastly, we'll put this all together to describe the ASHP ACPE accreditation standards for training and education in respect to the advisory committee. An advisory committee is a collection of individuals who bring their own unique knowledge and skills, which augment the knowledge and skills of the formal board of directors in order to more effectively guide the organization, or, in this case, the program. These individuals should represent diverse areas of pharmacy with extensive practice experience and knowledge of the current state of pharmacy practice. Your advisory committee should be comprised of individuals who represent a variety of different positions across a diverse range of work environments. Your advisory committee should include members that are leaders in pharmacy practice in your area. For example, your advisory committee can include pharmacists that are directors of pharmacy from local health systems or hospitals, and/or district managers from retail pharmacy chains. These individuals will likely be the future employers of your students. They may also be able to provide externship rotations for your facility, may provide pharmacy supplies and equipment that they no longer need, and will be strong advocates for your program. In addition, faculty members from nearby pharmacy schools are excellent members to recruit for the committee. Pharmacist educators can provide insight into what is being addressed in pharmacy school curricula, provide a perspective to better guide the development of a curriculum for pharmacy technician training programs, and even assist in developing partnerships between the College of Pharmacy and your program. For example, for externship rotations of pharmacy students at the pharmacy technician program, or pharmacy students providing lectures for the pharmacy technician training students. The advisory committee should also include pharmacy technicians from your community. Technicians who graduated from your program can provide a valuable perspective on the needs of the program, how the program can be made better, and how the program is preparing graduates for practice. Some advisory committees even include current students for added perspective. Some pharmacy technician training programs are fortunate enough to have a member of their state board of pharmacy on their advisory committee. Ideally, the individuals on the advisory committee will come from different practice sites within pharmacy so that they can provide their thoughts on what skills and training are valuable for pharmacy technicians in order to practice in their particular environment. For example, the training needs for a pharmacy technician going into practice in a community setting may differ from those of a technician working at a hospital. Ensuring a diverse composition of your advisory committee can help provide the knowledge and perspective needed to strengthen your technician training program. Key documentation for this standard includes keeping an up-to-date roster of all advisory committee members. The roster should list the names, job titles, whether they are a pharmacist or pharmacy technician, and facility of employment for each individual member. The roster should be updated if membership for the advisory committee changes. There are several meeting best practices that can help to conduct a successful advisory committee meeting. Firstly, it is important to develop an agenda for the meeting, which can help prioritize key topics and improve efficiency. It is also important to send any documents that will be discussed in the meeting prior to the scheduled date and time, so that attendees have sufficient time prior to meeting to review all materials. For example, these documents may include proposed changes to the curriculum or a list of precepting sites. When sending the meeting invite, it is useful to share the agenda or meeting outline with the advisory committee members so that they can be sufficiently prepared for all topics of discussion. Finally, it is important to capture accurate and thorough notes to detail the discussion during the advisory committee meeting. Be sure to note any changes or actions approved by the advisory committee and document the specifics of any votes that are held. Now that we have covered the definition of an advisory committee and best practices for conducting a meeting, we will discuss Standard 8 as set by ASHP and ACPE standards for education and training with respect to the advisory committee. Standard 8 requires that an advisory committee comprised of a broad-based group of pharmacists, faculty, pharmacy technicians, and others as deemed appropriate is established and meets at least twice a year. The advisory committee has the authority for approval of 5 specific items. These items include approving the curriculum, experiential training sites, criteria for admission and dismissal, criteria for successful completion of the program, and the training program's strategic plan. Meetings of the advisory committee can be scheduled at any time as long as 2 are conducted per year, and they do not have to be exactly 6 months apart. The advisory committee does not have to discuss and approve all 5 key items in the standards at every single committee meeting, but these do have to be voted upon and approved annually. Each vote should be documented in the meeting minutes and should reflect that the committee affirmed each key item by consensus. Meetings can be held live or virtually now that technology has become more advanced. The first item that the advisory committee has specific authority over approving is the curriculum for the training program. Specifics of the curriculum will vary depending on whether the program is entry level or advanced level. The curriculum should include information about curricular length, specifically providing the number of hours for each component of the program: didactic, simulated, and experiential. Programs should also document their method of time calculation for on-site and distance learning programs. The training schedule should consist of a minimum of 400 hours over at least 8 weeks for entry-level programs, and a minimum of 600 hours over at least 15 weeks for advanced level programs. Details of curricular composition should include specifics about the didactic training component, a description of activities and list of all equipment utilized for the simulation component, and a complete list of all experiential rotations offered. The advisory committee is also responsible for approving the list of experiential training programs used by the training program. Entry-level programs are required to have students complete at least 1 experiential rotation in a dispensing pharmacy setting. Programs must have the advisory committee approve a current list of rotation sites. Advanced level programs must require students to complete at least 1 additional rotation that takes place in a facility where students utilize skills learned in the advanced curriculum. Experiential training sites should be recognized by an organization appropriate to the practice setting, such as by the State Board of Pharmacy. A list of preceptors must also be maintained and should include the individual's completed academic and professional forms, the number of years they have been working at their practice site, and the number of years they have been working in the area in which they are providing training to the student. Thirdly, the advisory committee is responsible for approving the criteria for admission and dismissal from the technician training program. For admission consideration, the organization should determine qualifications which applicants must possess in order to be reasonably likely that the applicant would be able to fulfill the educational goals and objectives of the program. A list of admission criteria should be developed and at minimum should include graduation of high school, sufficient progress, or an equivalency certificate, demonstration of English language proficiency unless the native language spoken in the location of the program differs, sufficient math proficiency, and adherence to minimum age requirements based on state employment requirements. For advanced programs, in addition to the items just mentioned, students should have obtained a certificate to illustrate training in an entry-level ASHP ACPE accredited program. Programs should have also demonstrated a documented process to assess the applicant's background, as well as written processes for ADA compliance. Criteria for dismissal of a student from the program should also be approved by the advisory committee. The dismissal policy should include both academic and non-academic criteria, including adherence to the organization's Student Code of Conduct. The program director must also document the process for determining requirements for graduation from the program. The program director ensures that students' achievement of educational objectives is evaluated appropriately and documents completed competency criteria-based assessment tools. The advisory committee is then responsible for approving criteria for successful completion of the program. Criteria for completion will include sufficient number of hours spent in each component of the training program. Tools for documenting completed criteria could include a competency checklist or a crosswalk. Students who complete the program successfully should be awarded an appropriate certificate or diploma signed by both the program director and a superior of the program director. Lastly, the advisory committee is responsible for approving the program's strategic plan. This plan should be revised at least every 3 years and should be reviewed annually. Key components of the strategic plan should include the role of the program in the community, program goals, measurable objectives, strategies for achieving these goals, a schedule for evaluating progress made, and program outcomes. Additional guidance on development and revision of the strategic plan can be found on the ASHP website and within another educational recording. Minutes should be kept for each advisory committee meeting. Key components that should be documented in the minutes include date of the meeting, a roster of who attended the meeting and who is excused, background materials, areas of the standards that were discussed and their voted actions, and a summary of other key topics of discussion. Documentation of all revisions and actions to the strategic plan should occur at the meeting and written in the minutes. Documentation of minutes should be kept for at least 3 years. Here is an example of a blank advisory committee meeting minutes document found on the ASHP website. To complete the document, begin by adding your program name at the top, followed by the date that the meeting is taking place. Then, document all advisory committee members who are present at the meeting, as well as the members absent from the meeting. Also list any faculty or staff members present in the meeting. The next section of the template document includes a table that will help with organization of the minutes. Topics of discussion can be included in the far left column, with notes on the discussion held during the meeting in the center. The far right column can be used to document if a vote action occurs to approve any changes or revisions. This example document also has a place to address any changes you want to discuss that do not specifically pertain to the 5 areas of the standard for approval, any new program updates, or advisory committee recommendations that also have a place in the minutes. Also be sure to document who has finalized and submitted the meeting minutes. The individual that finalizes and submits the minutes is usually the program director for the Pharmacy Technician Education and Training Program and the secretary of the committee. In summary, The advisory committee is one of the elements that is required for ASHP ACPE Technician Education and Training Program accreditation and to assist in your ongoing quality assessment of the program. The committee should be made up of a broad group of pharmacists and pharmacy technicians with appropriate levels and diversity of skills, knowledge, and experience. Be sure to organize all committee meetings in advance by developing an agenda and keep clear documentation of any changes or actions approved during the meeting. If you have any questions or comments, please contact the Accreditation Services Office at asd@ashp.org. Thank you.